Okay, so I'm Kenya, and I'm going to start out our debate too with explaining the reasons why I think technology would be an advantage to use in classrooms. So, according to an article titled Evaluating the Pros and Cons of Tablet Use in Early Childhood Classrooms, one advantage of using technology in the classroom is that it boosts language development. And Jessica Alvarado, the author of this article, is an assistant professor of early childhood education in the Stanford College of Education and has worked with children and families for over a decade. So, um, she had some pretty good things to say. So, in this article, she presented an app source found from readingeggs.com. And this source states that one of its reading apps showed improved literacy among second grade children during the 2016 and 2017 school year. It also talks about the importance of using technology in both an age and developmentally appropriate manner. Additionally, not only did the author present the pros of tablet use, but she also shared guidelines and considerations for using technology. So this article doesn't simply just present its argument and then move on. It addresses some common concerns. So, for example, the article presents many ideas of how to use technology if a teacher so chooses, in order to best ensure that students are being supported in their learning. In addition, it shares considerations for apps and urges teachers to use games that are research based and at least developmentally appropriate, in addition to ones that don't present any risks in terms of safety to the students. My second reason for why technology should be used in classrooms is that it has been proven to increase student motivation to learn. According to the article found in the Creative Education Journal, motivation has been known to be a main factor of success in second language learning. In addition, the use of multiple modes of technology allows learners to feel a sense of freedom, motivation, and encouragement that they need in the learning process. To back this argument even more, the authors introduced research based on a couple of specific studies. First, a study done by Murat, Shari, and Abidin in 2016 revealed that the implementation of technology showed sustainability in the students' motivation to learn. A second study done by Blashowitz, Bates, Byrne, Bridgman, Cheney, and Perney in 2009 showed that the students were motivated and attentive when working on their tasks. And this study was made to observe the technology used by students, to observe the dynamics and teacher-centered choices in technology use, to look at the student learning and to learn about student and teacher perceptions and beliefs on technology. And what they found from these observations supported the use of technology in the classroom. Then, my last and third reason for this argument is found in the article The Benefit of Integrating Technology into the Classroom. The reason is that technology is a powerful tool that enables teachers to better tailor their instruction to an individual's learning needs. And the authors of this article further explain that technology could provide the means for students with special needs to communicate via email and use the internet for research. And today we know that there are even more technological tools that are made for special education students who can use the additional help that they need in school. Next, technology can also help teachers accommodate students' varying learning styles or preferences, regardless of whether the learners prefer to use auditory, kinesthetic, visual, or another kind of style. Using technology can allow students to access resources and learning tools that specifically utilize those learning styles. And in addition, gifted students can work at their own pace and explore subjects in more depth than what the basic curriculum provides to them.
On mine, my first argument presented in a study that I found addresses the use of like technology in an English classroom setting at the college level. And it includes facts of like students self-reporting, saying that the technology that they were using in their English class was helping certain students with pronunciation of words that might have been harder for them to say unless they could actually click and hear it. And with technology and with headphone use, that allows students to be able to actually develop the vocabulary and understand the words and everything that they're reading in the class. And then it also led to better literacy in the workforce whenever they leave college. So that also will add longevity to their careers. And then another point that I had found was a study composed on college ICT students. And these are students that mainly focus on the technology based education in their everyday life. And it just proves in this with the students that were studied, they said that the likelihood was up by 4.2%. That improves their wage. So the students that were in the class and took those classes through college were just statistically higher paid out of college in their first year. And then in Bangladesh, there was also a study composed of college age students, and this one is mainly based towards female college students. So, being over in Bangladesh, I feel like they don't have as much access as we would here in the United States. But once they were granted it, 436 students were given in-depth interviews just about their social lives and their personal lives. And then it was found that a lot of the female students at the college level were still very unaware of their bodies and just how they work and just like how they can make their own decisions and don't have to consult men about their decisions. And the technology granted them in this college class is what allowed them to develop these ideas. And I think in terms of advancement, that's about as good as it gets.
So, so to go against something that Austin said, like while the internet can be super helpful to find information about like reproductive stuff, but also about other things, it also has like a lot of websites that aren't necessarily trustworthy, and there's a lot of misinformation out there that can cause problems. And so that's also something to look at when you're thinking about that. And then to go against something that Kenya said, while technology may provide some extra motivation for students, it can also bring significant distraction. In a study by, Seung-Yin Lee and their colleagues, they found that even having a phone on you and not using it can just decrease test scores and on instruction. If technology is used in the classroom, students may be distracted by other tabs and apps, and this can lead to misunderstanding of information or distract other people. I know in one of my classes specifically, there's one person who's always working on something else while instruction is going on. And while she's also not paying attention, I find it difficult to pay attention as I often sit behind her. And so it's just overall distracting for other people around her as well as herself. And so technology in the classroom can still cause major distractions, even if it is helpful in some areas of motivation.
I firstly want to address something that Bryn said. She mentioned how technology could be distracting in classrooms when, for instance, sitting behind someone that's doing something different other than what the class is like going over. From a personal experience, I have sat behind someone in class that was watching a movie while a teacher was doing a very important lecture. And I felt it very distracting because, you know, you kind of just want to chime in if they're watching Vampire Diaries or something like that. It's very interesting. But the thing is that I don't pay my college to watch movies. I pay my college to learn. So I think that technology in that case is a very big con in this way. And then Kenya, I would like to address something that you said. Even though technology can be positive things for students with special needs to communicate and be able just to like show their emotions and things like that. Another thing that we need to address is the cyberbullying that can take place. I know that people that are on the spectrum for special needs, they are a lot more emotional in that way just because of how their mind is built and how some things may be lacking or increased. And with there a possibility being cyberbullying to people with special needs, I fear that it could be life threatening to them or even to someone around them to take their anger or sadness out on. Even though I said that technology for special needs children could be very beneficial, I look at this part as a very negative side.
Okay, so about the distraction part, I would like to say that I think when it comes to using technology in school, it's up to the student what to do with that technology. And even if we didn't allow laptops or tablets, someone could still use their phone or something that wasn't necessarily allowed in the classroom to be distracting. So I feel like that is something that kind of falls on the student themselves, and it's their responsibility to be responsible with their technology. Um, and then in terms of cyberbullying, it is really terrible that that happens. I would say, though, that it can happen to anyone, regardless of whether they have special needs or not. And if they are using technology at school in order to communicate with teachers or other classmates, and just to do research, I feel like cyberbullying would be less possible than if they were just at home on social media or something like that. So I would say using it for school is not necessarily as likely to cause them to be cyberbullied.
Yeah, to go back to what Claire said, mainly about being like technology being a distraction, I do think that it just goes back to how it's used. Because in all of my findings, it just seems like the students who use the internet and technology as a tool to do better in education. And like you said that you pay for school to learn. And I feel like the students that were studied 9 times out of 10 were more successful because they used technology throughout school. Because in one of my studies, it was proven that 12.8% of the students that were involved in this specific study made more out of their first year of college and were given higher salaries and better jobs than the students who maybe were against using like the high amount of technology. So really it just goes back to how it's used, because going to cyberbullying, I feel like that's something that's somewhat of a separate issue at the college age level, because I mean, we're all adults. And honestly, I hope it doesn't happen as often as it might, but I honestly feel like technology is a positive thing if it's used for the right things.
So to go on the con side of this argument, I found that though technology is often used at the university level, it may not be the best idea to use it. Not only does technology cause distraction, it is using it to connect with students does not guarantee that the class interaction and understanding of course material increases. And it also is more difficult for people in lower socioeconomic classes to be prepared for college. And to have like laptops available to them. And so that has a negative effect on their learning as well. In the classroom, technology can be distracting. In one study by Seung Lee and their colleagues, they studied how different phone policies affected student learning. They originally had 4 groups. There was the control group where there was no instruction given. And then there was a group where they were like, they took their phones away at the beginning. And then there was one where they were allowed in the room, but they were not allowed to use them. And there was a final one where cell phone use was permitted. and they showed them a TED Talk. And then at the end of the TED Talk, they gave them a little quiz to see like if they were paying attention or not, how their technology use has affected their learning. And they found that when phones were taken away, students did better on the multiple choice test about the video. And they also found that participants who were just as distracted when their phone was put away as when their phone was allowed to be used. And this shows that even having a device on you can lead to distraction regardless of if it's out or not. And as I said before, there is no guarantee that integrating technology would improve understanding and participation in class. In a study conducted by Benjamin Dyson and his colleagues, they had 5 sections of Intro to Psych, and they split the class into 3 tests. And for the first 2 tests, they sent out articles in a Facebook group that students were allowed to join, and then they would have discussions about those articles at the beginning of the week, and all of the articles were related to the course content. But by the end, and then on the 3rd test, they didn't do this, so they wanted to see how it affected them. And through surveys, they found that there was actually the most understanding and engagement of course materials in the 3rd section of class, but that had nothing to do with the extra interaction, because the extra interaction was not used for the 3rd test. So having that extra interaction with technology does not necessarily, or it does not inherently cause better understanding. It could decrease understanding. And finally, there's a difficulty between the economic classes and their abilities to get access to personal computers, like many universities today suggest or require. In an observational study conducted by Bianca Reisdorf and her colleagues, they found that 60% of non-owners cited inability to afford a laptop as the reason for not having a laptop. And they also found that this disproportionately affects people who are already marginalized. And so they found, and lastly, they found that non-ownership of a laptop was associated with lower academic performance, and of those people who could not afford laptops or did not have their own laptop, they did see this as a sort of disadvantage. And so by increasing technology use in classrooms, this could hurt students who are going to be going into school without these technologies available to them on a regular basis, and it can already decrease like learning for them and puts them at a disadvantage to those kids who are able to afford it. And so to summarize, not like technology at the university level in the classroom and outside of the classroom can cause distraction, and it doesn't necessarily guarantee key understanding, and it puts people who are unable to afford that technology at an unfair disadvantage.
So I am also part of the con side. I am going to be addressing 3 different topics because I feel like these are very necessary to bring up. One topic that I do want to discuss is that many people in a certain study were shown to have a positive look on cyber counseling itself, though it limits many things that can be hidden from the counselor's eyes. Through cyber counseling, many people, including college students, would not be able to have the reading of body language and full one-on-one meetings with the person that is trying to help them. Maples states in an article that she had wrote titled "The Cyber Counseling in the United States and South Korea, Implications for Counseling College Students of the Millennial Generation and the Network Generation," that first and foremost, computers do not offer the human interaction that is present, and some would argue that is essential in the counselor's office. According to McNeely, 2005, Using technology only enhances the hands-on experience. It does not and cannot replace human interaction. Law, and this part is referenced from 2002, also stressed that the use of human interaction allows the counselor to use verbal cues and convey nonverbal messages through facial expressions to determine the feelings and status of the client. The absence of vocal and nonverbal cues in cyber counseling is a disadvantage because these cues are vital in the counseling relationship. The participants that were included were different counselors. I believe that this scholarly work supported my position in this debate because it talks of how college students cannot truly get the full one-on-one experience with their counselors if it's through cyber counseling. I know that a lot of college students have a very rough schedule to be able to meet up with people and be able to talk about like what's going on in their life. But the cons through cyber counseling is, like I said, you can't see the body language that is being presented. Somebody can be twiddling their thumbs out of anxiety. Somebody can be hurting themselves and you wouldn't know what to do because you honestly can't see through the screen because a lot of their body is hidden from view. There is an article that explains how artificial intelligence is not being taken advantage of in the concept that it could help college students. Lee states in the article the impact of wireless network mobile devices on college students, labor concept, education, and artificial intelligence environment, that with the continuous development of artificial intelligence, wireless network mobile devices are gradually polarized among college students. The information transmitted through network media imperceptibly affects the labor view of contemporary college students. According to the statistical results of the questionnaire survey, most of the students hold the attitude of working to earn more money, but show indifference to households, which indicates that there are some problems in the view of labor contemporary college students that cannot be ignored. The concept of labor compressed is relatively biased in the cognition of purpose of labor, and there are obvious differences in knowledge and action in the division of labor, which suggest that the application of artificial intelligence technology and the education of labor concept should be further changed so that can have a positive impact on the overall understanding of college students on labor. There are many reasons for the above views in the education of labor concept of the college students. However, in this work, there are also some shortcomings, such as the sample size of this questionnaire is not sufficient due to the time constraints. Therefore, when they go into future work to see if this still is true with all of the facts given, they would have better results. The participants that were examined in this were college students that were in education of labor. I thought that this scholarly work supported my position by explaining how college students say that they want to make a change by working to make money, but at the same time, they do not support their actions through day-to-day life. The article goes on to explain that the application of artificial intelligence technology in the education labor concept should be further changed. Through this being stated, it becomes aware that technology needs to help students become more aware of the outside world. But to this article is not taking the turn to the best.